ragazzi, it's time for the Italian moments in life, or in other words, sex, lies and violent death in Verona. Please welcome today's cast for the most famous love story ever. Romeo Montague, around 16 and unhappily in love with a bitch called Rosaline, who ignores him. As computers and death metal haven't been invented yet, his youthful rebellion consists of running around in nature all alone. Juliet Capulet, nearly 14, stemming from a respectable family like Romeo's, except that there's a kind of family feud going on between their tribes. Since recently, someone has taken an interest in her, namely Count Paris, and while the thought of marriage hasn't crossed her mind yet, it is definitely on Paris's mind. Juliet's confidant is her nurse, who is a cheesy kind of person, friendly but not reliable. Then there's Friar Lawrence, a kind of hippie monk who's a friend and supporter of the young couple. Romeo has two sidekicks, Benvolio and Mercutio. Benvolio is a nice son-in-law kind of guy, while Mercutio is as mad and iridescent as Freddie Mercury, and he has the same kind of overbite. Juliet, in turn, has a cousin named Tybalt, who is into all sorts of violence and thus not overly sympathetic. Then there's the respective parents, of course, this being Juliet's mother and father. Correspondingly, there's the Montagues. Strangely, Mrs. Montague seems to be on holiday whenever anything important happens. In order to more easily distinguish between the enemy families, the Capulets are reddish, while the Montagues are bluish, and the referee of the family feud wears black. He's the Prince of Verona. And as always, there's loads of servants, the people, and an apothecary. Uncle Willie writes his play sometime in the early 1590s, if indeed he does write it, and not another gentleman of the same name. It is set in Verona, it is a hot summer evening, and by way of exception there's no performance of Aida in the arena tonight, so the city youth don't know what to do with their spare time. Two little Capulettes are on the road, and one of them goes, "And if those fucking Montagues want to fuck around with us, we won't stand for that, no." And it doesn't take long for the Montagues to arrive, and one of them is pissed off by the fact that this Capulet guy wears the same headscarf and goes, "What's up? What's up?" And they get at each other. There's a big commotion, and other members of the two houses join in the fight. They have a real brawl, and knives are being drawn, until at the end even Mr. Montague and Mr. Capulet face each other and very nearly get violent too, but the referee steps in and goes, "Stop this immediately. How many times have I told you that I don't want any public displays of animosity? Capulet, you come along and get your punishment. Montague, you come to my office tomorrow." And they all go away, just Benvolio remains, and Montague goes, "So where's Romeo when we're having a nice little family reunion like this?" "Oh, you know he's being melancholy, he doesn't have time." "Ah, yes, I forgot." When Romeo steps in and goes, "I'm so unhappily in love," but Benvolio says, "Come on, this Rosaline is a bitch anyway. There's a party at the Capulets, why don't we gate crash there? And I'll show you some other girls that will make you forget our..." "Okay, try it." At the Capulet's place, Lady Capulet has asked her daughter and the inevitable nurse for a conversation, some serious mother-daughter talk. "Juliet, you are very nearly, 14, mother." "Exactly, you are very nearly 14, so it's time to think about getting married." "What? When I was your age..." "Anyway, Count Paris wants to get married to you." "Uh-huh. And he is going to be at our party tonight. There you can have a look at him." "Okay." At the party in the evening, all the good society of Verona that isn't called Montague is present. Among them, Count Paris and, of course, cousin Tybalt. Romeo and his friends have masked themselves and gate-crashed the party as planned. And Romeo sees Juliet and goes, "Whoa, who's that? My torch is burning brighter all of a sudden." And Tybalt recognizes him and says, "That's Romeo Montague, I'm going to kill him!" But Capulet holds him back because he doesn't want blood to be spilled in his house. And as it happens, Romeo and Juliet get talking, and he says, "Going on pilgrimage is very hip at the moment, why don't my lips?" But she goes, "No, that's not the pious thing to do." But they're getting along like two houses on fire and kiss, and she's gone in a wish, and at least he finds out that she's called Juliet Capulet. When the party's over, Romeo sneaks into the Capulets' garden, which is no less risky than the gate crashing before. Juliet is actually on the balcony and goes, "Whoa, there she is." And she soliloquizes, "Romeo, wherefore do you have to be named Montague?" And he steps out from the shadows and goes, "I'll be rebaptized for you." "What are you doing here? My people will kill you when they find you." And he goes, "No, it doesn't matter. I want to swear to you." And she goes, "Nay, do not swear. But I want to tell you that..." "Me too." And in that moment the nurse calls her, "Juliet!" And she goes in, only to come out once more. "Listen, if you really love me and want to marry me, we have a date tomorrow, okay?" "Yeah, that's what we'll do." And she goes in again and comes back for a second time. "Parting is such sweet sorrow." "Yeah." and they share a very romantic moment. When the sun rises, Romeo goes straight to Friar Lawrence and asks him, "Friar, I'd like you to wed us. Could you do that?" "And who's we?" "Well, Juliet Capulet and me." "Ach, weren't you in love with that other one only yesterday?" "No, that was a long time ago." "Will you?" "Okay." And in the street, Romeo meets the nurse and tells her to tell Juliet to meet him at Friar Lawrence's cell at 2 o'clock. And while the nurse is really chatty, she still delivers the message to Juliet, so the two lovers meet at the right time and the right place. And they look at each other, and they are very nearly over each other. Friar Lawrence steps in and goes, "You'll be married first, if you please." And he weds them. But afterwards they go home separately, as the family feud is still on, and it is dangerous, of course. In the street, Benvolio and Mercutio have in the meantime met Tybalt, and they are accosting each other when Romeo steps in and says, "Tybalt, we must be friends." "Oh, do we now, you little shit?" And Mercutio has had enough of this talk and attacks Tybalt, and they fight, and in the end Tybalt kills Mercutio. Unfortunately, Romeo cannot let that go because Mercutio was his friend, so he draws his blade too, has a go at Tybalt, and in turn kills him. And he runs for it. Moments later, the heads of the two families arrive. "Oh no, what's this again?" And the prince comes too. "Who was that?" To which Benvolio replies, "Well, first Tybalt killed Mercutio, and in retribution Romeo killed Tybalt." "Aha, in that case, my verdict is banishment for Romeo, to be effective immediately." The nurse has heard that on the street and comes home with this news, where Juliet is impatiently waiting. "He's been in quite a hurry to get married, and now he keeps me waiting." "Oh no, he's dead!" "No." "Yes!" "God! Yeah! My Romeo!" "No, it's not Romeo who's dead, it's Tybalt who was slain by Romeo." "Oh, you silly woman, get me Romeo here at once!" Romeo, meanwhile, has taken shelter in Friar Lawrence's cell, who just returns. "So, death penalty, isn't it?" "No, just banishment." "Oh, that's just as bad, because I won't be able to see her. I'll kill myself." "Easy, kid. You now go to your wife, spend the wedding night with her, and tomorrow is early enough to go to Mantova into banishment, right?" "Right. There you go." And Romeo does indeed go to Juliet, and they spend a wonderful night together. When the dawn of the new day breaks, Romeo says farewell and means to climb down the balcony, but she holds him back, saying, "Do you really have to go? It was the nightingale. I mean, the alarm clock hasn't gone off yet." "Yes, it has." "No, please stay." "Okay, I'll stay. Let them kill me for it." "No, go." And finally he goes. Naturally, Juliet is not well at all after this departure, and her mother comes in and says, "Oh dear, are you still sad because of Tybalt, this fucking murderer Romeo? But look on the bright side, Count Paris wants to marry you on Thursday next." And Juliet goes, "Oh, that is a hurry." And her mother goes, "Yes, but..." And Father Capulet pops in and goes, "You are going to be married on Thursday, basta." And preparations for the marriage commence at once, and Juliet urgently needs to see Friar Lawrence once more. The friar, however, is just being frequented by another customer, none other but Count Paris. "Could you wed me to Julia Capulet on Thursday?" "Oh, that's a little difficult." When Juliet enters, and the Count goes, "Juliet, how very nice to meet you before getting married to you. Have you been weeping?" "Oh, that was just..." "Very well then, see you on Thursday." And she goes, "What am I to do, Friar Lawrence?" "Easy, I've got a plan, okay? I'm going to give you a kind of herbal cough drops, which you'll drink, you'll go into a kind of coma, they'll think you're dead and bury you. You don't have to marry. I'll tell Romeo to rescue you and all is gonna be fine, okay?" And she goes, "Okay," takes this home. Their preparations for the marriage are running at full steam, and her mother, "So are you excited about tomorrow?" And Juliet goes to bed and drinks the drops Friar Lawrence has given her and looks as if she were dead. In the morning, her nurse comes in and goes, "Rise and shine," and wah! And her mother comes and goes, wah! And they think she's dead and bury her. And the news of Juliet's death travels as far as Mantova. This is Mantova for the moment, where Romeo is anxious to hear news from Verona. A messenger drops by and Romeo goes, "So what's the news from Juliet?" And the messenger replies, "Well, not too good, Juliet's dead." "What? That can't be true." And he goes to a chemist's store because he's decided to die with Juliet and asks the apothecary, "I'd like poison, please." "Well, under the Narcotics Act..." "I'd like poison, please." "Okay, €5. And Romeo pays €5 and takes the poison, his plan being to enter Juliet's tomb and there die with her. At the cemetery in Verona, Count Paris has made himself at home in order to have an eye on Juliet, who is buried there. He seems to have really loved her in his own way. very special way, so he watches over her. And Romeo enters in order to find his wife and goes, "What are you doing here?" "Well, what are you doing here, Montague?" And they enter into a fight, and due to that unlucky dagger happiness, Romeo kills the Count. Was that really necessary, man? Dear me. Oh my God, Juliet. And he drinks the apothecary's poison. Sip, sip, ah! And a moment later, Juliet, "Ah, what a beautiful morning, and there's Romeo already dead. Oh my God." And she tries to take poison as well, but finds the bottle empty. So she takes the dagger with which Romeo has just killed Count Paris and kills herself. And in death, the two lovers are finally reunited. 5 minutes later, of course, the whole of Verona gets to the place, Montague, as well as his friend Capulet, and the referee. So the two enemies go, "Should we have a kind of time out from our vendetta?" "Yeah, all right." And the prince goes, "There never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo." And this, dear congregation, was Romeo and Juliet by Will Shakespeare.
Vielen Dank.